afternoon, everyone. It's just ticked over 12 o'clock. Welcome back to Adobe Live this Monday afternoon. Almost said morning again. Today I'm joined by Charles Carter. Charles, welcome back. It's been a while since we streamed together, and you were back in the Alps from a log cabin, but today you are in London. Is that correct?
It is correct. I'm in London today. Sadly, a little bit less exciting than a log cabin in the Alps, but I'm still very happy to be here.
Yeah. So yeah, welcome everyone to Adobe Live. We're going to be streaming through some creativity today, and Charles is going to be running through creating some video clips into some loops. I'll let you explain a little bit further. If you want to join in with the chat, by the way, come and join us on Behance. We've got the chat open. There's plenty of people trickling in to start with. So good afternoon to Sean and Linda, Andreas, Angus, Oliver, and if you are, who else there? Jelena. If you're welcoming people in, then say hello. It's always good to see friendly faces, and I think creativity is one of the best ways to keep everything friendly and good. So, Charles, what are we running through today?
Yes, good question. So I've been having a little bit of fun lately on Instagram, putting together these, I guess we're going to call them ambient little video clips for Reels. And I've seen a few other people doing it as well. So what we're going to be running through is I'm just going to be putting together a short little video clip, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, using either some drone footage or just some sort of landscape footage that I've shot on my travels. And I'm going to be adding some ambient sounds, picking a nice little sort of looping clip, audio clip for it, putting in some textures, some grain, and then also we're going to be jumping into After Effects and showing you quickly just how to add some animated text that sort of comes onto the screen. We're going to pick a nice little cheesy quote, and yeah, then we're going to export it and have it ready for social. So that's what we're going to do today.
Cool. The way you've just described that, it sounded like a chef just sort of like reeling off, how they're going to piece together this dish, like
That's
a
it.
10-minute meal.
Was it? Yeah, a quick 10-minute meal was for your lunchtime. There we go. That's what we're doing now. A quick 10-minute social video for your lunchtime break.
All right.
Yeah.
Tasty. So yeah, let's jump into it. Let's have a look at what we're going to work through.
Let's do it. So I've just got two little examples here of just kind of the thing we're going to be putting together. So I shared, I think these both onto my socials in the last few weeks, but we'll just play through them. And you can see here as well, we've got a few different tracks going on at the same time. So I'll talk through what those are as well, and then we'll build one up from scratch afterwards.
Plot twist in the second half of that one.
Yeah, there you go. A bit of a heartstrings, And then here's another one. So these are just nice little drone clips that I like. Some little audio loops and just some fun little quotes to add over them. And I mean, a lot of it for me is in the sound, to be honest. I love adding these little ambient noises and just seeing what you can layer in. Here, I've kind of cut the track in half and kind of just like, this is both the music here, and just sort of tweaked with it and moved it around a bit just to make it fit the time frame we had. And then I think here we just had some nice ambient sort of wind in the background. And then here we have a few more layers of sound. We've got a few like bird sound effects. I think there was some water in there, and then kind of just like just the audio track there. We've also got some textures over them. So we have some film grain here, which is just looped over. We've got a little bit of a color grade, and then we also have the animated text, which is imported from After Effects. So we'll go over here. What we've got is a clip, a nice little 7-second clip that I shot out somewhere in Germany, I think, driving through the Alps in Germany. This really cool little, just it's very hard to see now, but we're going to fix that in a second.
Yep.
Just this little white church or chapel, whatever you want to call it, with a nice sort of valley behind it. And so we're going to turn that into one of those little clips. So first thing is sequence dimensions. So for this one, we have 1080 width and a 1920 height, which is the size for Instagram Reels, Stories, just sort of the standard social full screen portrait display. So make sure you've got that. And we're going to make sure that the clip, because you can see here, it's been shot in widescreen or landscape. So we're going to quickly scale that up.
Just wondering actually if we could adjust the program monitor maybe to the right of the screen, and then it will if you snap it over onto the right hand side of your whole interface.
Like this?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we can do
and
that.
Then, just thinking, if anyone's watching this stream on mobile, it's going to be doubly smart.
Ah, very smart. I like it. Big brain moves. Very good.
And then, of course, you can shrink it width-wise even further. You've got room to play there.
Yeah, we're good. We've got a bit of space. We don't need too much room in the sequence.
Nice.
So yeah, just all I've done there is just scaled that up to fill the full screen. You can obviously also adjust position if you like, but I just kind of like it centered there. I think it was shot pretty well centered. So now that we've got that,
is this filmed in 4K by any chance?
Sadly, it wasn't. I think this was quite a while back, actually. It might be. Let's find out. Can you do that here? Can you find the
properties?
Yeah. Oh, 2.7K. That very odd.
Yeah.
That very odd.
60 frames, so you got room for slowing down if you want.
Do you have a little bit of slowing down? Actually, we'll maybe make the sequence 30 frames per second in that case, just to keep it nice and synced. Okay, so yeah, so we've got this. We've got 7 seconds of footage, but what I prefer, we want maybe around 10 seconds, I think, just to keep the clip like a nice little social length. So I'm going to use the rate stretch tool here and just drag that out to 10 seconds. And it's probably one of my favorite tools actually in Premiere. And all that does is just adjust the speed of your clip as you go. So you can extend it. It will change it to, you see there, it's changed the speed. You can reduce it. Just saves you having to sort of guess how much you need to slow down or speed up the clip to fit a certain time frame. So now that we've got that to a nice little length, what I'm going to do now, the next step is usually finding a audio clip. And a lot of the time, I'll actually hear the audio first and I think, oh, that would make a really cool little like 10-second clip. What can I put to it? This time it was not the case, but I do have a nice little track here, a nice little classical piece, very moody. We'll just play through that quickly. Actually, we'll do it up here. And kind of the process here is what you want to do is you want to find like a small, like maybe like 4 to 8 bars of the track, or just a little section of it that you kind of loop, or just sort of fits what you're looking for. Oh, there we go. They finally loaded in the waveforms. Now this one doesn't really have like a defined sort of segment that you can cut out, but I do think it's still going to work. I think that
it's very energetic from the start, so it gives you something to work with. Yeah,
building a bit of the energy up and some mood. So if we play them together. So I think that'll work for now. And I think what I'll do as well is I'll cut the music just before it gets to that sort of next segment where it sort of drops a little bit, drops in that next bit. So you can just cut that there for now as a bit of a rough cut. Put an out point in as well so we can loop it as it plays. And this is just a very rough sort of placement at the moment. We'll fine tune it later. But now that we do have this music track there, the next step is going to be adding in a nice little quote. I think there'll be other steps as well, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to put the quote in, in After Effects and sort of use the timing of the music to sort of figure out where the quote animates in.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do, there are a few ways to do this to work between Premiere and After Effects, but I kind of like to keep it simple, and I just copy the clip here, and then I'll just paste it into my composition here, because I'm not going to be exporting the video clip from After Effects. Just going to be using it as a sort of guide to where I want to place the text. I've got a little composition here already put together.
That's probably a key distinguishment, actually, because yeah, of course you could right click and create a motion clip for After Effects, but then anything you do here is going to replace that video.
Yeah,
but you're just taking the text, right?
That's it. All I want to do is put some text and bring that back into Premiere, because we're going to be sort of grading the clip, adding textures, and I might still want to change the speed of it. So, it's just sort of keeping it very flexible. And it's just a bit easier to work with the sound in Premiere as well, I think. So we're just going to trim the comp to length.
There's a question here from Laura, actually, just asking what video was this shot with? So, what camera?
This was a Mavic Air.
Okay.
Yeah, just a Mavic Air drone. I think the first one of them, actually.
Yeah,
an old Mavic Air.
15, maybe 2016.
Yeah, I think I shot this in 2018. This footage. So yeah, Mavic Air. Nice. Very handy little drone, actually.
Yeah.
Very little. Yeah. So we've got the clip. I've just trimmed the comp to fit the length of the clip, so it's 10 seconds. And you can do that really quickly using the, it's kind of like setting you in and out in Premiere. You can press B here for beginning and for end over here, and then you just right click and you can trim the comp to the length of the workspace. But I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so we're going to add some text. So we're just going to use the text tool here. I think we're going to place the quote along the bottom. And I have a lovely quote from Gandalf, in fact, which is, the text has already got its color and everything. We're gonna pretend that we don't see that. All we need to do is decide to do with the time that we have. I believe that's the quote. We'll double check that for accuracy shortly.
But, could be paraphrasing Gandalf here, but
yes. Apologies, Gandalf, if you're watching this, and we're
Middle-earth, don't come after
us. So we've got the quote here. I'm going to reset the actual. Pretend that we didn't already choose a font, because we're going to do that shortly. Just going to put some random font on there, and we're going to reset the color as well. We'll put that down to black just to go through the process. Okay, so once we've got the font, the copy in there, we're going to, for me, that's quite small. It's obviously also quite small for everyone watching. So the first thing I'd like to do is increase the size of that slightly. And also going to add this, what do you call it? Sort of border here. That's it, safe areas, there you go. Just so we know that we're working within sort of the screen restrictions that we want. I'm going to put it up to 60, and I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And obviously you can't really see that, so we are going to change the colors. The other two that we put together, I kind of like this sort of yellowy, warm, orangey style. So I'm going to do that as well. And it's also kind of how a lot of the trending reels will present the text. So I'm just going to change the color a little bit.
Tell you what, trying to find a gold is so difficult.
It is.
On a color chart. I always find myself doing one and then going back to it like a minute later and be like, no, it's not quite right. No, not quite right.
You got to save the hex code. As soon as you get one you like, you write back right and saving this. I do have one somewhere, but it's it is.
You very quickly end up into murky brown territory.
It's a very dangerous game to play. We're going to stick with that for now.
I think you might have missed the first A on that.
Yes. Reach right up. There we go. We have, okay. And now that we've done that, there are a few other things we're going to do. So if we play this back as is, we're quote's just going to sit there. It's going to be there, which is fine. But I think we can do a little bit better. We're going to animate it in so that it just kind of appears as the track plays. And I think to do that, it's very, very easy actually. We just need to open up the layer in the composition, and we can click this tool here, animate. And what we're going to animate is the opacity of the text. So we click that, and then it adds this little animator here. And what we're going to play with is the range of the animation. So at the moment, the opacity is set to 100, which means that you're going to see it the whole time. So what we can do is we can tweak where that animation starts. So if we click this here to set a keyframe, and then we move that along, I might be doing this wrong actually, hold on a second. If I'm lying, there we go. I meant to say 0% of the opacity, and then if we move that along, it reveals it. So yeah, we've set the opacity to 0, so that basically the animation is setting the opacity to 0. And what we can do is then, if we move the start point of the animation along, it reveals everything before and sets that opacity back to 100. So you can see here, if I change that start percentage, it sort of reveals.
This is doing that character by character, is that right?
It is character by character. We will change that.
Yeah.
So in fact, if you go into advanced here, you can decide how it reveals itself. So at the moment, it's based on characters. So if you play that through, say if we set the start point to go from 0 to 100 there, we just got that. So 0% here is the first keyframe. You play through to 100%, and it's revealing each character as we go, which isn't quite as dramatic as revealing it word by word. So we're going to change this here based on 2 words. And straight away, if we play that back.
Can we preview the window larger? Yeah.
Good idea. That is a fantastic plan. There we go.
There we go.
So you can see now each word is fading in as we go, as opposed to each character.
It's interesting how just changing from character to words, it gives it a bit more punch. Like it makes you focus on it a little bit more. Whereas when it's just characters, it just sort of feels like a wipe. It's just like, here's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's just
whereas words, it's sort of like, no, here's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And actually, as well, what I like to do is you can also, again, you can break that down a little bit more. You can put in some hold keyframes. So say there's like I'm going to double check this quote for accuracy, because I'd hate to export it and have the incorrect word in. Let me just double check, because I put a rough version of this together last night. We can see what the text actually says. All we have to decide is to do what to do with the time that is given to us. There we go. Let's see how close I was. All we need, sorry Gandalf, we have to do is to decide what to do with the time that is. Oh wow, I was quite wrong. If there's any Lord of the Rings fans out there, absolutely livid right now, I apologize. That's given to us. ... Very important ... Okay.
There's a question actually, what the shortcut was to preview that large. Is it the same as Premiere for After Effects?
It is, yeah. It's just is it comma, apostrophe? Yeah. Left of the Z, whichever that is, the apostrophe, the backtick,
Which, interestingly, by the way, depending on what version of keyboard you have, is one of the main keys that trips up a lot of Bluetooth connections if your keyboard moves that key around. And then Bluetooth comes up and says, hey, hold on a minute, what key is this? Because I think on a US keyboard, it's actually up near the tab key.
Yeah.
Whereas on a British QWERTY keyboard, it's to the left of the Z key. And I think on an AZERTY keyboard, it's somewhere.
French keyboard, different. We have it right here, actually, because I think I have the French keyboard log set up. Oh, it doesn't want to show us. Okay, we'll pretend that didn't happen. So I do, because on this keyboard as well, if you press the function key with the globe, it changes the keyboard. So I've got British, French, and Icelandic on my keyboard, and I'll be typing something, and suddenly I'll just be getting all of these crazy Icelandic or letters. Or for a while, actually, I was trying to figure out why I couldn't use a shortcut, and it was because I had the
Yeah.
French keyboard on, and I was like, "What's going on? What's happening here?" But yeah, it is a little tricky one there. So okay, so we've got the quote, and that's coming in wide. But what I like to do as well is I like to break that sort of animation in down. So I think all we have to do is a good break point here. So what I'll do is I'll move that point there just so we have that word. And I think you can kind of see a little bit of the is. So that might be the way that it's animated in. Is that smoothness? Do we want to break that down? Yes, there we go. So now instead of having like the next word sort of fade in, it will come in all at once. Let's just see how that looks. Oh. I'll play through that. Okay, so it looks a little bit aggressive, I think, like that without the smooth fading. But if we slow that down, it might make it a little bit nicer. So what we have to do, and we're going to make that a hold keyframe. So what I'm going to do is add a pause there. So the hold keyframe basically means that instead of sort of transitioning from this keyframe to this keyframe, it'll hit this point and it will stay there until it's given another command to sort of move along. So we can hold at that point for maybe, how long is it clip? 10 seconds. So let's say we have to have it fade in, finish there. We can play through and just play with the time in a bit. All we have to do is move that along to there, I think. All we have to do. It's a little bit slow actually. Let's give it 1 second. And we have maybe like a half-second pause. All we have to do, and then we'll bring in the next word.
So I guess effectively what you're doing is you're adding like a reading voice to this.
Yeah,
essentially, you're letting your eyes pause in the natural way that you would read.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it, actually. Yeah, I guess when I'm reading it in my head, that's the sort of pace that I would want it to have it read to me. All we have to do is decide what. I feel like I've also still misquoted that. All we have to decide is do the time that we're given. There we go. Wow, we have to. I really failed at getting this quote right, haven't I?
It's a very typical sort of Gandalf quote, isn't it? It's a very like twisting, turning of very simple terms.
Yes, it is. Okay, so all we have to decide. Okay, so we've moved that word along, so we actually need to adjust this slightly. We have to decide is what. We have to decide is what. Oh wow, this is really taking a turn here, isn't it? So all we have to decide, and we're going to have a hold keyframe there. Oh no, I've messed that up, haven't I? All we have to decide is what to do the time that is given to us. So I feel like these keyframes might have doubled up there. We have 0 there, 100% there. We're going to add another one here, and that's going to be the next sort of breath. So all we have to decide is what to do. I think that should be the next breath is what to do. So we'll have that there. We'll have another keyframe there, and we'll make this one a whole keyframe as well. We'll move that back. So it's what to do. Yep. And this one should be needs to move back slightly. There we go. All we have to decide. I don't understand why it's pulling that into there. That's throwing me off a little bit. There's a little is appearing and reappearing. I think that should be 29%. There we go. That should fix it. All we have to decide, there we go, is what to do. And then we'll add one more in. Copy that one, paste it there. And then we'll have 100% at the end. So that should, let's just go through the timing of that and see how it looks. All we have to decide, there we go. Oh, we've messed up that bit there, but I think it is a little bit slow actually, so we'll speed it up a bit and then we'll move on to the next part. But you can kind of see the idea here. We're just playing around with like spacing the keyframes out, and
It's a true example of how finicky and fiddly these things can be.
it is.
Especially when you create this thing and then you decide actually I want to change the quote, and then
Yeah,
everything's manually placed and other things.
move
Because likewise, if
everything
you made the
around.
quote longer, suddenly your
Yeah,
percentages react differently at the beginning.
yeah. See,
Nice.
all I'm going to do is just keep the pauses the same, but just have it show a little quicker, I think. And then we'll export it.
Yeah.
Fine.
There's actually a mini discussion happening in the chat of questioning if there was potential to build an application like After Effects but simpler, in the same way that Premiere Rush exists. It's a tricky one because After Effects is complex. It's a big beast, but at the same time, so is Premiere. So yeah, I was just thinking in my head then. I was like, if there was a simpler version, what would I ask for?
What would you?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was considering, because you can put together the motion graphics templates from After Effects now and import them straight in, which is super useful for things that are repetitive. But something like this, I was considering if it would be possible. I mean, having to tweak the percentages for each sort of different quote, it just wouldn't really work, would it? So there are things that you just sometimes can't simplify. So with that being said, what we're going to do now quickly is export this. So I've used this just as a guide to place the text. In fact, actually, what I will do is just add a quick effect, because I do feel like the text looks a little bit too sharp. So I'm just going to add a quick blur to the text. It's a very subtle one.
Okay.
It's a little Gaussian blur. And we'll just drag and drop that on top. And then just a very, very small, just to take away the sharp edges, just maybe like 5%. And I think it just takes the edge off of that text once you do it, export it. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is go to composition, add to render queue, and all we're going to do is add the alpha channel in with the export. And all that does is means that it exports the color channels, which is the text. And then instead of exporting the black background, it's going to show the transparency instead, or not show it rather. And then I'm just going to save that in here under exports. We're just going to change it from test to version 1. Did a little test export last night to make sure I didn't do anything wrong today.
Nice.
And then
version control. Love to see it.
There you go. And then render, which is you can see this is one of the new features of After Effects, isn't it? It sort of renders ahead.
Multi-frame, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See it live in action.
Super smooth.
So what we're going to do now is drag that text that we've just exported, that little clip, into our timeline. So we're going to go into Finder, we're going to go here into Exports, and just drag that into Premiere. Or rather than not. No, that's After Effects. Here we go. No, that's After Effects. We're just going to drag and drop that there and place it over. And let's just have a quick look. Okay, so I've kind of,
nice.
It does need some tweaking, I think, but we're going to slow it down, just do that. Have it there, but we're not going to fine tune it now because it would take a little bit too long. But it does the job for now. You can see we've got the nice little quote playing. It shows up nicely. And also, what I might do is just add a little transition fade to the end of that text, just so it doesn't disappear entirely. We're just going to add, I guess we can put a cross dissolve on the end of it. Will that do the job? Yeah, there you go. Nice little dissolve at the end. Okay, so next step is to add some ambience and some extra sounds in. And to do that, I'm going to go into the project and go to my audio. And I think because the quote's about time, what I want to do is add in a little clock ticking noise. So I have like a clock sound effect here. We're going to place that below on the track below. We're just going to play through and just see how that sounds with the music. Let's give it a quick play. So already I think that's a bit too fast, a little bit too aggressive. What I'm going to do is just take a section of that and slow it down. So Command and R, shortcut for clip speed. And let's cut it in half and see how it sounds. Let's just play that through. In fact, we're going to solo this track, so it just only plays the audio here. I think that's a little bit too fast. So actually,
yeah, it's a pendulum clock, isn't it? So it's getting both movement mechanics.
Yeah. So
or rather
what I might,
the half point.
yeah. I think it's just the speed is, yeah. So we can just slow it down. Instead of slowing it down, I'm going to separate each talk and each tick and just cut them like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Different way to make TikToks.
There you go. One of us had to say it, didn't we?
Set them up or smash them out.
We'll just place those along manually. Cut one more out, chuck it there, and just see how that sounds instead. Let's see. I think that's a bit more sort of. Let's play it with the music. I think the pacing's a bit better. I mean, it's a little bit off. We're not here to be perfectionists right now. We're just here to sort of give quick examples. Otherwise, it would be a 4-hour stream. So we'll leave that as is for now. And we can, if we have time at the end, we can sort of tidy it up. So we've got that nice little top clock ticking. I think as well, with a lot of my drone footage, I like to add in like some sort of ambient wind background noise. It just adds a little bit of mood to it. So let's see. Here we go. Drone wind is right there. Perfect. Let's check that.
This is the thing with when you film with the drone, there's no audio that comes with the clip, so you really do have to build your scene. If you did have audio, it'd just be audio of like the propellers, wouldn't it? And
yeah, it'd be quite unsettling, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun, to be honest. I think I do love building a scene and thinking to myself, okay, what noise should I be hearing? Where can I find a good sound? And like it's all part of the fun, I think.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, so I like that. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I want to add in. I'm trying to remember what I added on the example I made yesterday. I don't think I added too many things in, to be honest. What's this sound effect here? Crickets. Do you think we need crickets? Would there be crickets in a field in the middle of summer? I think maybe.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Depends.
We'll see.
Is this sunset happening?
This is middle of the day, I think.
Middle of the
so
day.
Maybe they're confused crickets. They're not sure what time to be making noise, so we'll see if they fit into the scene. It's always a little bit of test and trial and error. I'm not sure about that. We'll see. We'll mute that one for now. But one of the things that you might have noticed is that the audio levels aren't really sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? The levels aren't really done, so everything's playing at the same volume, so you can't really distinguish what's what. So something that we'll do now is we'll play around with the levels, and there's some quick ways to do this. So we've got the music track here, and we can go into audio, and it's just a good starting point is to use the Essential soundboard. We can set that to music, and we can set this one to ambience. And what would we call the clock? Would that be a sound effect or ambience? What do you think? Should we say it's part of the ambience? Why not? We'll do that. And all that does is assign sort of like preset, I guess, tags to each of the audio. And so now, because I've set this to music, I can also match the loudness to sort of the levels that you would expect. And I can also do the same for the ambience. So match that. And now if we play through, it's a bit more bearable. You can see the audio levels here aren't sort of peaking. I do think that the drone wind is still a bit too loud. So we're going to pull that down slightly. Let's take like 10 off of it. See how that sounds. It's a bit more bearable. And then maybe we're going to put the channel for the clock. Where's the, do we have it on here? Audio track mixer, here we go. So audio channel 2, I'm just going to pull that down by 5 decibels. Let's see.
Already it just starts to build and feel differently.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, it might be cool actually to sort of have the ticks sort of rise and fall, you know? Is there a way, do you think, can we nest these?
Could nest it and then, yeah, like adjust
Yeah.
the rubber band.
Yeah, we could do that. So, okay, we're going to nest it. Tick ambience. Just name the nest because otherwise they can get out of control. Got to stay on top of your project. So then let's make sure that it's audio. Yep. So we're going to press P for the pen tool. I'm going to put a keyframe here, here, and here. Maybe one there as well. Then we're just going to pull it down. So let's have it like rise slightly as the clip plays. Let's just see how that looks. It's cool. I like that. That works for now.
Yep.
And so we've got that, the music. I think maybe we can have the music fade out as well so it doesn't just cut and disappear. So just put a little exponential fade on the end there. Give that a few seconds. And then now that we've done that, I mean, sometimes I'll spend a bit more time on that, you know, adding a few more layers of ambience, but I think it's just a good example of kind of how you would want to sort of start adding those in and layering them in and sort of adjusting the levels for each track just to make it all fit. So now we're going to add in some textures.
Nice.
So I think we're going to add maybe some movie grain because, you know, why not? And maybe some lens flares just to sort of show how you can layer those up and add those in. So we'll go back to this workspace here. And we don't really need this window to be so big at the moment. So we're going to bring these both across. And I'm going to go into my project folder. And where do I keep my, let's go into motion graphics, grain. Let's go with film grain 1. We're going to bring this up a level actually because we don't want the grain to be over the text. So we've got just some film grain here, which usually looks like this. So it's just like some old school sort of like grainy film.
Dust and speckles and all sorts.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously we can't see the clip below that. Actually, first of all, so this was covered by the video window. We're going to rotate it because it doesn't fit the frame. So we're just going to go into Effect Controls, Rotation, and -90. So now that is fitted to the sequence. And we want to change the blend mode. So we take it from normal to screen. It removes all of, what do we call the black layer? Is it Luma? No.
The blend mode, sorry.
Yeah, it takes away all of the black and it just leaves the white. That's what screen's doing here. So it's just leaving those little speckles still, right? I was just trying to think of what channel that's taken out, but I didn't remember the name, so we're just going to pretend I didn't try that. And we can also, if we don't want it to be as sort of noticeable, we can just put the opacity down a bit, maybe like 60%, and you can still see it's there, and I mean, maybe even 50%. Just make it a little bit less.
Good question here, actually. Tim's asking if the grain would show up on social media correctly, or if it potentially could ruin the compression of the video and make things worse. I see you've gone for quite a significant grain here, but does like a smaller grain just actually end up,
Right,
frustrating
yeah.
the compression bots?
Kind of like, say if we added like a 4K grain like this, maybe something like that, very fine grain. Yeah, there's probably a good chance
Yeah.
it would actually. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it would have to be quite rough and maybe quite noticeable. Like something
Hmm.
like this would probably just reduce the sharpness, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, I haven't tested it, but I feel like, yeah, in cases where I might have used that grain, it definitely hasn't really been that noticeable. So it probably just does reduce the
Mm.
quality a bit. So yeah, something like this, I think is just, yeah, a bit more safer to go with.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've reduced the opacity a little bit. We've changed the blend mode, which you can do in effect controls, and just go down to opacity. I mean, you've got a few different options here. Screen doesn't always work. It depends on what kind of what you're trying to remove. So if I went with overlay here, you can see it's not taken away the black background. It's just sort of I can't even remember how it applies it, but it's darkened the entire image.
Yeah. It's kind of like a mix
Um,
between screen and multiply together.
Yeah, we don't really want that. So if you're using various sort of overlays or textures, you kind of play around and see which ones work best. But I think screen and overlay are sort of your two best bets to begin with. So yeah, so we've done that, and now we're going to add in a film, sort of a lens flare. Some light leaks here. Let's go with, what do we have? Ambience, something warm. Amber transition. Should we try that? Let's see what that looks like. No. Amber ambience, maybe? Something a bit warmer. Oh, there we go. That segment there is not too bad. Oh, here we go. We have actually just light leaks. Let's try that. Orange. Let's go something nice and warm. Let's grab the orange. Even warm. Oh, it's a bit too much.
And these all just stock clips that you've gathered over the
Yeah,
years?
these are kind of just stock clips that I've used. I mean, I just have them sitting there ready to be sort of, that works. We can put light leaks over, I think, just to be used. I mean, you can always go and find others, but I mean, if it works, why change it, you know?
Yeah.
And we're going to do the same thing with this. You can see here it's in landscape, so we're just going to adjust the rotation. Minus 90, make sure the scales fits the frame. And we have the same problem here. You can see that it's obviously still got the background there. So we're going to make it transparent. We're going to add screen and just sort of play through that and see how it feels. I think I do like that, but I think it's a little bit aggressive. I think
Scratch
maybe
down,
we
yeah.
can, yeah, we can put the opacity down and also maybe cut some chunks out of it. So let's put that down to maybe like 65. That's a little bit better. And then maybe just have it come in little waves. So like, let's say like, let's have the first few seconds without it. Have that come in for a second or two. And then let's put like, where's a cut point we can find? There we go. There's a nice little point there. We can just get rid of it. And then maybe if we can split that into two, let's see. I feel like we can maybe get away with a cheeky cut
Even do
there.
similar to how you've done with the audio, with adjusting the opacity with the pen.
True. That's yeah, maybe we can do that. Let's open that up a bit. Make sure that it's, yep, opacity, and then just the pen tool. What am I doing wrong
Do you
here?
ever do tweaks? Oh, sorry, what you're looking for is if you right click on the effects icon on that clip, and then opacity, and
Yeah, it should be. Oh, there it just wasn't showing the track. Okay,
weird.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, let's do that. The same sort of thing. Let's just bring it
Yeah,
down
do
a
you
little
ever
bit.
adjust your light leaks and things like that in terms of color with like grading them specifically, or do you just sort of leave them as they are?
That's a very good question. No, but maybe we'll do it now because I'd never really thought of that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah,
Right,
no,
well,
that's
thank
quite
Tim
fun.
for that. That was a
Thank you, Tim.
yeah, setting up, and then let me think about where it could go.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. Maybe we could do that. I mean, I was going to grade this clip quickly anyway, so maybe yeah, we can go into the color panel now. I mean, let's quickly play that through and just see. Yeah, like just fades in, and another one sort of fades in a
Yeah,
little
looks
bit.
great.
It's a bit better. Yeah, it's a lot less aggressive there. So let's go to the color panel quickly, and we're going to first of all, let's just quickly let's do what Tim suggested. Let's put a little bit of a grade on this grain. Let's maybe make it. I think it does look a little bit cold, to be honest. Put a little bit of warmth into it. By a little bit, I mean a lot. Let's take some saturation out of it, I think. I mean, we don't want to do too much to it, really, do we? I think
Yeah.
maybe I just wanted to make it a little bit warmer. I mean, you could obviously do a lot. You could go into the creative and just sort of add some tints to it. All sorts of things, really. And maybe we can give this one a little bit of a different look, make it a little bit more green. Just see how they sort of. There we go. It's a bit warmer there. A little bit different there. I guess also we could play with the film grain. Maybe just change the levels on that a little bit. Where are my curves? Here we go. So let's find a point where we can kind of see it. I think really just want to try and just maybe just bring the whites down, crush the whites a little bit actually. I mean, it's going to be super unnoticeable. And I think I was having a discussion with someone the other day how, or maybe it was a meme that I saw, it's like when you're editing colors and things like this, there's like the tiniest tweaks that you spend hours and hours on, and no one's going to notice them except for you. But I think
Yeah.
it's like, it's important to sort of have that sort of love for what you're doing, you know. It's what makes all the difference for you, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Just check. I mean, I don't even know if you can see a difference there, especially from the distance. But these are the sorts of things you could play around with, I guess. And you could probably add color to this grain if you wanted to, you know, the color wheels and stuff. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to quickly actually hide these two whilst we put some grade, just a little bit of color and stuff into the drone footage. Let me bring this up so it's a bit more easy to see. So we've got the Luma vector scope up at the moment, or graph, whatever you want to call it, and that just helps you to set your exposure. And I mean, the Mavic Air is going to shoot automatic exposure most of the time anyway, so this is pretty fairly exposed. So all we're going to do really is add some sort of just stylistic changes, and I do like to sort of push my blacks down a little bit and bring a bit more contrast into these shots. Highlights to come up a little bit, I think, just bring the dynamic range up a bit. Tiny bit of contrast. I mean, really just not that much.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of contrast into it, I think. The warmth, I mean, again, the white balance is sort of automatic with these cameras. Just chuck a little bit of warmth into it to make it a bit more friendly. And then with the saturation as well, we just touch, maybe like 110. Nope, it's a little bit too much. 5. And then we'll just add a little quick creative light over the top. I think I found a nice one actually. No, maybe not that one. How about this one? That's a bit, that'll do. All we're doing is just putting it on very safe. So we've put a creative light over the top just for like to change the color values and stuff. And I'm just really bringing the intensity down because I just want it to be quite subtle. Like that is way too much, I think. If we have it like around 30%, maybe,
Yep.
turn it off a minute. Yeah, it's just very subtle. Just adds a little bit of flavor to it. And then we can, actually, I do like to add sometimes a little bit of a vignette as well. So let's just do that quickly. With vignettes, actually, when you have I think anyway, when your clip is scaled up, I don't know if it applies it by the frame, but let's just put a quick adjustment layer on it, or if it applies it for the clip. So sometimes if you're trying to add a vignette and it's not appearing on the screen because we've like changed the rotation of the scale, you can add a adjustment layer over the top that sort of is sized to the sequence,
That is
which we can do
actually a
now.
great tip when it comes to doing
Yes.
social stuff, because quite often you are either cropping into horizontal footage, um,
Yeah.
yeah, or you're
So
scaling things.
let's add an adjustment layer quickly, which I've apparently forgotten how to do. Let's go into my project. Where's the button
Oh,
I'm
all
looking
the
for?
buttons are
There it
hidden
is.
yet.
Adjustment layer and just call it that. So make sure the dimensions are the same as your sequence and chuck that in, and we'll call it which I've forgotten how to spell, vignette. We'll just drag that into our sequence. I don't want the text to be affected by it, so we're going to put it down here, make it cover the entire sequence, or like the period that we want it to cover. And then we're going to select it, go back to the colors workspace, drag this down so you can see a bit better, and then just add like a very subtle vignette. I mean, I'm going to pump it all the way up, and I like to reduce the feather just so I can see kind of where it is and adjust the midpoints and stuff. And just like to kind of have it here, and then I can obviously put the feather back up, maybe reduce it a little bit. It just sort of brings the focus into the center of the frame, which is always nice to do.
Yeah.
And then that, I think, for now, is pretty much ready to go. I mean, obviously, we can spend a lot of time tweaking. Where's our program monitor? Oh, it's right here. And sort of making small adjustments. But I think have a little playthrough if we can. No, wrong. There we go.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's like, I mean, with the timings and stuff, you can tweak the timings on the text and sort of spend ages fine tuning everything. But I think as sort of a rough process of how I'd put something like that together, or one of these, that's pretty much the process. You find your clip, you find your audio, you pick a sort of segment of that audio that you really want to work with and kind of fits well, like fades in, fades out, has the right energy, build up some ambience, add in some textures, a bit of color, add in your font and animate it in After Effects, and then you're ready to go. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're fun little things to put together.
Yeah, it proves like completely how even just the simplest of things, when you start adding your creative layers, it builds into something else. And I think this all the time. There's a graph that I saw. I'm not sure who shared it first, but I saw it shared by Chase Jarvis about the process of creation. You start off, you think you've got a brilliant idea, and you get through to it, and you're like, oh, this idea sucks. This is like horrendous. I hate this. And then you go through and it starts getting better. It's like, oh, maybe there's promise. Maybe there's promise. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm so glad I carried on through that journey. Because if you'd given up
Yeah,
here thinking, nah, that video is too simple, it's nothing to it,
yeah, yeah,
but building and layering, it adds so much. And it's
yeah.
amazing how I personally feel it in almost every single project. I don't know what that says, but it just just proves that you've always got to keep layering and tweaking and adding. And
Yeah, and just
yeah,
persevering through, I think. Yeah, and I mean, you never know what you're going to come up with. I mean, I sat down the other day to sort of put this project together and have a sort of think about what I wanted to talk about. And I have this project where I have all of these little clips of things that I've shot, like this footage here, for example, I shot years ago, and I've never used it for anything. And I mean, have all this beautiful drone footage. I'm like, man, this is such nice footage, but I have no idea what to do with it. So occasionally I'll just sit down, scroll through all these little cuts. I'm like, what do I like out of this? And then I drag this into a timeline, and yeah, I had no idea what I was going to make. Found that clip, had that quote saved somewhere, had the random idea of adding in the TikToks of the clock, and I thought this is actually kind of cool. I like this. Like
yeah,
this is this wasn't planned, but it just sort of grew out of nowhere. So it's good fun. And I mean, you can always add more things. Like even watching it back now, I was like, maybe I could put a mask here with like a little bit of exposure just to sort of bring the exposure up here. Um, which I mean, we've got 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
We can
I was
quickly do
also
that. Go
interested
on.
to know what your export settings would be for social, because again,
Yes,
similar with the compression aspect.
that's a good question. I will show you that actually. So I do have for Instagram at least a preset. I'm praying that it's here. There you go, IG Reels. So this is quite compressed because after doing a bit of research, I mean, sure, I know you're quite clued up on your codecs and your export settings as well. From what I understand, the compression algorithm is going to compress it anyway. So I think, yeah, it's very low bit rate,
Okay.
two pass,
Wow.
uh, and 1080 by 1920, um, and rendered at maximum depth. Yeah, so that is what I would use, like a very low compression. And I think I've always been told that like when you're doing video for social, that's going to be shared at least. You want to have it
Yeah.
a very small file. But I will also export a high quality version too, just for like other things that I want to do with it.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I must admit, 2 and 3 it surprised me as quite low, but
Mm.
then I'm wondering if there's method to the madness where it, like you said, it bypasses the native compression that happens on the app, because almost like it goes through and it says, "Oh, this is already good."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that was the
Um,
idea. Like I think I read a few articles, and yeah, I mean, it could be wrong. No one really knows except for the people, who are making these algorithms and putting it all together. But we can only guess. Trial and error, I think, is the best way.
mm,
Um, but yeah, that's generally how I would do it. But I do like to sort of export a high quality as well and just to test and see if one looks different from the other.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, all I quickly just say is, yeah, I'll add like a little, maybe we can just do this vignette layer. Actually, sorry, let's put a little adjustment layer over the top quickly. And I do this actually for some of my photo editing as well. I do like to sort of add like just a little exposure mask in the middle, like a radial mask, um, and just have like the exposure in the center of the image a little bit above what the rest of the image is. And it just, again, sort of brings that focus in to the subject you want people to look at, which is the church and kind of the background, I think, in this case. So we'll just put in, how am I going to do this? Mask. There we go. Let's mask it. So just put a little opacity mask on that adjustment layer. Have it just cover that church area, and we'll put quite a bit of feather on it as well. Maybe even more than that. And then all we'll do in the color panel is put the exposure up just a little bit, maybe like
Yeah.
one stop. And then you can see there, like it's just, because I did
A
think it
little
was a
bit of
little bit
punch.
dark. Yeah, it just adds a little bit of punch. It just kind of just makes that sort of section there stand out a little bit more. Um, but yes, again, like it's just another example of all the little tweaks that you probably don't notice in a final product, but that sort of thought process that goes into making these kind of little 10, 15-second clips. So yeah, it's good fun. I mean, maybe even saturation. You could maybe add some saturation to that as well. Like I'm looking at it now. I mean, I'm going to stop because we could be here all day. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
these
was
are all
I
a
was
little,
going to
like you
ask
say.
actually, how long on average would you usually spend on these types of clips? I know it's a bit long when you're explaining it and screen sharing and things,
Yeah,
but what's the sort of average time?
it really depends. I would say maybe like 30 to 60 minutes. An hour is like a
Okay.
good time. I think like you sit down. If I know what I want to do and I don't know kind of what direction I'm heading, then maybe an hour. If I have no idea and I'm just sort of making things up as I go, it could be 2 hours. But I think for me, like it's not really about quantity anymore for my social media. It's more just me making things I enjoy and
Yeah.
sharing them. Back in the day, when I was just pumping out content, maybe I wouldn't have to be able to spend that long on something. But I like to be able to enjoy the process and have fun with it and sort of create these little 10, 15-second things that I can be happy with, I think. So yeah,
Yeah.
time's not really an issue. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I mean, definitely getting a lot of enjoyment from it, and you've ended up with a brilliant little piece. It's
Thank
really
you.
come together, and yeah, just to sort of reiterate my view on it is just the layers, man. It just all adds up, and I'm sure you could keep going for the rest of the afternoon and look at
Yeah,
all
maybe I
sorts.
will. Maybe once we finish talking, I'll sit here for a couple more hours and keep tweaking it.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks Charles for sharing your process today. Thanks to everyone who's been joining us live, and likewise for everyone who catches on the replays and everything. We have further streams coming up this week. So we have some 3D design, and we also have, I believe, some illustration on Wednesday. So yeah, look forward to seeing you around soon. Thanks again, Charles, and we'll see you live at 12 tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers then. Bye bye.